And we have today one of the real legends in Terp football history. He is former NFL running back Lamont Jordan, most notably of the New York Jets. And we are so glad to welcome to the Maryland Live family. He also has been watching this program grow over the last 3 years as sideline reporter for the football team. And you were at the game in Wisconsin, up close and personal. I said last week after that game that Maryland finally looks like a Big Ten team. Big, fast, physical, and they proved it to me against Wisconsin. What say you?
Yeah, I like it. The one thing that this game showed, and I think we were all kind of thinking, and I want to say Coach Locks kind of spoke on this when I was listening to the show, him and Johnny on the coaches show, is that you're going to find out who you are and where you are in this game, and for this team to go up to Wisconsin um, and play the way they played. It's pretty special, man. Coach Locks has something. He has something great going on over there right now. And anybody who has heard me talk, I've always said, it's kind of hard to compete against teams when it comes to recruiting in this NIL era who was doing NIL before NIL was legal.
Right.
Allegedly. I gotta make sure I say that. Um, But I think that what you're seeing is he has his type of guys. He's starting to get his guys. And what you want to see out of a football team is consistency.
Right.
And the defense has been very, very, very consistent. I know that, we're going to talk about Washington here, but I really think that the defense, in my opinion, being led by Daniel Wingate, has just done a tremendous job all season long of putting the offense in situations where, as far as I'm concerned, the offense really isn't under pressure because the defense is keeping teams from scoring and they're forcing teams to have to travel the distance of the field in order to score.
It's funny that you mentioned Wingate because he's the other guy that is having a significant impact. But I'm talking about a kid in Wingate who has stepped on the field on the defense and changed its presence. Talk about him in particular and what he means in terms of because you've seen great linebackers at Maryland
Hmm.
before, the Sean Marions and guys like that.
Hmm.
Talk to me about where you see Wingate projecting amongst those all-time great linebackers in College Park.
I was thinking about it as I was getting ready to come on the show. And I think you put him up there with the Eric Bartons and the EJ Hendersons and the Kendall Ogles and the Sean Merrimans, because he's having that type of impact. What he's doing now doesn't surprise me. I was at Riverdale Baptist for 1 year, and it just so happened to be his freshman year. So he started for me at tight end and at middle linebacker. So, and I've trained him, done some training with him during the off season. And during my coaching time here, being back home in the GYFL and at Riverdale Baptist, his father was my defensive coordinator. And so this kid has been training to be a middle linebacker pretty much his entire life. I think that if you look at the defensive leader and the offensive leader, they have a couple of things in common. Obviously, the football part is that both of those guys are just straight ballers, but they are very humble young men. They have great high character, and if you have a conversation with Wingate, he's kind of a soft voice, soft spoken, well-raised kid, but when he's on that football field, he's just a different animal. And so I'm really happy for him. I'm really proud of him. When he first came to Maryland, they had him playing outside linebacker. He was rushing off the edge. And I remember one of his first opportunities, they had a tackle come and pull and got him up out the club. Just straight got him up out the club, man. But he never backed down. He continued to work hard, and you can see it. I mean, he's darn near in on every tackle, and it's his vision, it's his tackling ability, it's his speed, his hands, his ability to cover in space and tackle in the open field. And so, when you have a middle linebacker like that, who's he's just taking care of business on a defensive side of the ball, and I have to take my hat off to Azar, the defensive backs coach.
Mm-hmm.
This is the absolute best that I have seen the Maryland secondary play in years. And when you think about teams, how often have we watched football games and we're consistently seeing guys being wide the heck open? Or you're seeing guys being able to catch the ball and pick up 20, 30 yards after the catch. The thing about this secondary is that they're all ball hogs. They want to get the interception. If they have space to run the ball, they're trying to take the pick all the way back to the house. But more importantly, when a team completes a pass on them, the defender is right there. So they're not giving up the big yards. So just overall defensively being led by Daniel Wingate is doing a phenomenal job.
And that's one of the things that people are talking about too is the emergence of the secondary under Azar Rahim.
Mhm.
I heard through the grapevine, everybody got sources that he said that's going to change the direction of the defense. When I met his uncle at DCTV in the
Mhm.
district, so it's tremendous to watch Wingate. But to me, the thing that makes, for lack of a better term, the team sexy now is always the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Malik is just, I mean, the numbers have spoken for themselves
Mhm.
when there's only one quarterback in history as a freshman over their first 4 games to throw more yardage, and he happens to play in town. And the synergy of that between that record with Jaden Daniels being
Mhm.
associated with Malik Washington is really ironical. But when you look at the way that kid has become the almost face of the franchise, so to speak,
Mhm.
immediately. What do you think that means for the overall program? Because I'm the guy to think with a win like Washington on Saturday, you get off Big Ten Network and start finding yourself on, Big Ten Saturday night.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, when you have a quarterback that first of all, when you have a quarterback that again is humble,
Mhm.
he's making NFL throws right now as a true freshman. Um, it's funny because during the last home game, I was looking at him and I was like, to myself, I said he kind of got a little Jaden Daniels in him. But I don't like doing if it's one thing I try to avoid is putting something on a young player just to be able to say it. I don't want to put that type of pressure on them. But when I got to the broadcasting booth after the game, and Johnny and I was kind of sitting and talking, he was like, he's got a little Jaden Daniels in him. So that for me, that confirmed it. Here's what I mean by he reminds me of Jaden Daniels. All right. Humble, has an arm, can make every single throw. He has absolute command of the huddle. He's very poised in every situation. You never see him get rattled. All right. And when you think about this, Mark, think about this because this is significant. This kid is a true freshman. Okay. You do not see a whole lot of, or if any, delay of game penalties called on us. You don't see a whole lot of false starts. You don't see a whole lot of guys breaking the huddle and then we got to get guys and moving around. You never see this kid panic. And so when I compare him to Jaden, I'm talking about those types of things and the things that make Jaden Jaden. And so what can that do for the for a program? I mean, heck, if you're a wide receiver and you're being recruited, and I have to take my hat off to the wide receivers that we have. We're talking about tight end Dorian Fleming, Shalik Knox. I'm really, really happy and proud of Octavian Smith, the way that he's just taking advantage of the opportunity that he's given. If you're a wide receiver and you're being recruited, what this does for the program is it gives you an opportunity to possibly get a big time, a super big time wide receiver because you have this possible up and coming star who has the ability to get the ball to you anywhere on the field. And that's something else that's significant about this kid is as a play caller myself, if you have speed at the wide receiver position, it stretches the field for you because now you're forcing the defense to play more of the field. How many times have we talked about quarterbacks that don't have strong arms? Well, that doesn't put as much pressure on the defense. When you have a quarterback that can throw the ball as far as Washington can throw the ball, if you have a wide receiver with speed, as a wideout, I know that I can never outrun my quarterback's arm. So I can always just keep running full speed no matter what. And that does a lot when you talk about disrupting the defense. So I'm really happy for Malik. I love where he's starting right now. The one thing that I don't want to do is get ahead of myself and play this game where we start making these ridiculous projections and all of that. I'm looking at it like this. It's one game at a time. This kid is a true freshman. He's a very humble kid. He's making NFL throws, but the most impressive thing for me outside of how humble he is how he is just doing a great job of being a leader and commanding the huddle.
And away from Jade Malik's numbers, you talked about Shalik Knox. And for the record, he's got 4 touchdown catches already this season of more than 25 yards. So
Hmm.
when you, to your point about stretching the defense, the offense is definitely putting pressure on it. And frankly, Wisconsin couldn't keep up. And I
Hmm.
think that's another thing we got to talk about is the foot speed of this team, Lamont.
Hmm.
From your vantage point on the sideline, do you notice how much faster the team looks than I've seen them? And I haven't been up and close with them like you have for the last 2 years. But
Hmm.
the team speed that they have right now,
Hmm.
haven't seen 10 years of SEC football like I did. They got some fast guys, and it's another level of speed with this team across the board.
Yeah, and I see it more so on the defensive side of the ball. The defense, they just fly to the ball, man. I mean, I watch teams try to run outside on us, and when you're playing against teams that get downhill, um, when you're playing teams who are able to get downhill and who are willing to tackle, and I'm not talking about this, let me close my eyes and dive at your legs and dive
Right.
at your ankles and just hope and wish on a prayer. The defense, this is another thing that's impressive about this defense is this is the first time in years that I have consistently seen these guys run up and actually put shoulder pad on somebody. You don't see a bunch of reaching and arm tackles and closing your eyes and diving. You see some guys being football players, biting down on your mouthpiece, putting your face mask in somebody's chest, wrapping up, and then letting all the rest of the guys rally to the ball. And so that was the first thing that stuck out to me when it came to the team speed is the defense. The other thing, and this comes back to when I'm thinking about Malik, when I'm thinking about Daniel, when you have those type of leaders, when you know your job and you know what you're doing and you have confidence in the people around you, it allows you to play faster. And I think that that's what you're seeing on both sides of the ball from the Terps.
All right, now let's get into this Washington thing because we've seen Maryland, who is really good at getting to 4-0. They got one of the more impressive strings of 4-0 starts. Here we go again. It's Washington. This is a team, still had its Pac-10 principles when they came into the Big Ten, right?
Hmm.
They always fast. They really physical themselves. But when you start, putting everything on the table now, they're coming to the East Coast. Maryland's had a bye week. Is this a classic trap game based upon what you may know right now about those Huskies?
I don't think that where our football program is and where it's been for a number of years, and I'm talking before Coach Locks even got here, that we can tag a trap game to Maryland football. I think trap games are reserved for teams that have consistently been in the college football playoffs, that are playing in national championships, that kind of have that pedigree. You're talking about the Ohio States, possibly a Penn State, although they haven't been in the national championship. The fact of the matter is, we're talking about teams. You can tag trap game for teams like that. I don't think that you can tag this as a trap game for us. This is just the next team that's on our schedule. It's definitely going to be the best team that we've played this entire season. I just came back from school watching some film on this Washington team, and let me tell you, this Washington team is good, man.
Okay.
This Washington team is really good. They are. I was talking to a guy over at Maryland, and as I was watching film, I was like, "Damn, this team reminds me of somebody." I could not put my finger on it, who this team reminds me of, but he said it to me. He said that this team does not do a lot, but what they do very well. And you know who that reminded me of? And he said this also: Iowa. Iowa does not do a lot, but what they do very well. And I'm talking right now on the defensive side of the ball. These guys, they fly to the ball, they tackle. Um, I think that we can make some hay in the run game against this team. Um, this game is going to come down to who. It's going to come down to, as always, who's going to do a great job of taking care of the ball. All right. But for me, we talked about the defense. This is the biggest test that our defense is going to face. They have a quarterback in Williams Jr., number two. To me, he plays like Kyler Murray. I always say Kyler Murray. I need to go get me some seafood. He plays like Kyler Murray. All right. Has a strong arm, but when he tucks that ball and run, he is an absolute problem. They have two running backs in Coleman and Adam. These are big, kind of stocky guys who run really hard. All right, and he also has a wideout. I mean, we're talking about a wideout that will play in the National Football League someday. So this is a test. Defensively, we have to stay in the lanes and we have to force Williams to throw the ball. We have to handle their formations. They do a rack of formations. They run different personnels. They do different formations. They run a bunch of shifts. They run a bunch of motions. They do a lot of things that can distract you. And so this is a huge, huge test. But if our defense can keep them from making big plays, if they can generate turnovers, and the person that worries me the most in this game is Williams when he's doing these off script plays. We have to make sure that we contain him. I'm going to tell you right now, if we do not contain him, Washington is going to move the ball up and down the field because when he makes these off script plays, these are big plays. But if we're able to contain him, make this a football game where it's, hey, first down, second down, get to third down, you either make them punt or maybe they convert. If we can make this a game of long drives when we get later in the fourth quarter, now we're talking about a possibility to win. But this game is going to come in my opinion, offensively, we have to take care of the ball. I do think that we can get the run game going and people may not know this, but we have some dynamic backs in our backfield.
Right.
We have a four-headed monster. We haven't really been able to get them going because of the style of defense the teams are playing against our read option. But offensively, take care of the ball, and we have to make sure that we contain Washington's quarterback.
Okay, now new defensive coordinator Ted Monachino is an aggressive guy by nature, right? And he's been able to turn some of those exotic blitzes, you know, in this game though. Do you see them being aggressive defensively, or you think you kind of just read and react?
You don't want to read and react. This quarterback is too fast, and when he makes his mind up that he's going to run, he's going to run, and it's a problem. Like I spoke about when it comes to all the different formations, the shifts, the motions, the different personnel groups, those things for me, and I'm just thinking, I can only think about it from me as a play caller. Those things are designed to get you as a defense to hesitate. If I can get you to hesitate some, now that just opened things up for me. So this is going to come down to these guys just being sound, identifying the personnel, identifying the formation, know what shifts and what motions and what plays these teams like to run out of these formations. And then from there, you just got to go do whatever you got to do. So if he makes a decision that he wants to be aggressive, then he's going to be aggressive. If he makes a decision that we're going to sit back, it really doesn't matter. It really just comes down to these guys defensively just doing what they've done all year long. And that's just go out there, and I'm taking this from Bill Belichick, and that's just do your job. Continue to just do your job. The most important thing is you have to be disciplined in your rush lanes. You have to be disciplined and stand in your gap when it comes to the run game. And you have to be able to identify screens. This team's run a lot of screens, a lot of different ways. So you just have to be focused. You have to be disciplined. And when you bring pressure, if you bring pressure, you have to make sure that you're doing your job. And I'll tell you what, Cam Rice as a D tackle on the inside, he's done a heck of a job all year long of just destroying the offensive linemen. So this is a really good game, and you can see the direction that Coach Locks has this team coming in because how many times have we come into a season? We play your Towsons, you play the lower level schools, and then you know you play at Wisconsin, but people are going to say, "Hey, Wisconsin is not the Wisconsin they used to be." So what?
It's still
You
Wisconsin.
it's still Wisconsin, and it was Wisconsin at home. Okay, but how many times have we gotten to a game that is you're playing against a good opponent, and in your mind you're saying to yourself, you know what, I don't think that we can win this
Right.
game. This is not that time. This is not one of those games. This is not the same Terps team. Coach Locks has I always say when Coach Locks gets his type of guys, and I know what his types of guys are because I was one of them, and he
Mm-hmm.
has a team of his type of guys, guys who aren't concerned with NIL, guys who aren't worried about what their socks look like and ain't worried about what's going on in the stands. He has a group of guys that care about playing the game of football and has a group of guys who care about winning. And this right here is a winnable game against a really good Washington football team.
To that end, all right, let's flip the script on the offensive side in terms of your perspective on the impact that Pep Hamilton has had on the offense and not only the development of Malik Washington, but the improvement in the run game. Because I think a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of people think that when you're Pep Hamilton, you're a guy that just wants to fling the ball around and all that kind of stuff. His offense grinds, but is explosive. So how does that match up with what you've seen on video for Washington's defense?
First of all, the presence of Pep Hamilton takes some load off of Coach Locks because now he doesn't necessarily have to focus so much on what's going on the offensive side of the ball. He has a guy that he trusts. I know at some point it was either last year or the year before last year, he wound up taking over the play calling. When you talk about the importance of Pep Hamilton, when you have a Malik Washington, Pep Hamilton was the quarterback's coach for Andrew Luck. We saw what he did when the team that the Commanders about to play, Justin Herbert, when he was a rookie, Pep Hamilton was out there. So if it's one thing that Pep Hamilton has shown is that when he is working with young quarterbacks, these guys tend to have success. I had an opportunity to coach on Pep's staff when he was the head coach for the DC Defenders. I was his running backs coach,
Mm-hmm.
so I know what he's capable of doing. I had a chance to be coached by Pep Hamilton when we both were with the New York Jets. So when you have a guy like Pep Hamilton who has that NFL experience, who is just a great coach. He's calm. He has a great temperament about him. Um, it really takes the load off of the head coach. And like I said, the running game has not been able to get going. We have Williams, we have Nolan Ray, we have Howard. We have a three-headed monster of guys that we haven't really been able to get those guys going yet because we run the read option and teams are taking that away from us. But make no mistake about it, when these guys really get their opportunity to explode, I know that Pep is going to come up with some type of game plan that eventually this run game is going to get going. I believe it can happen in this game, but when you're talking about the run game, it's all about the big nasties up front. And I think that Fred Smoot says that the big nasties or the big uglies up front,
Yep.
it starts with those guys and the wide receiver core. The wide receiver core does a really good job of blocking in the run game. Just blocking, period. And you see that when they're running all of these different screens for one another. So if we can get these guys up front, all right, to
Mm-hmm.
to to play Big Ten style, straight up grown man type blocking, you're going to see the run game. You're going to see the run game develop. But if it's one thing that they have done a great job of all year long, and that's keeping Malik Washington upright, we have not given up a lot of sacks. And I think that that's a tribute to Pep's play calling. I think it's a tribute to Malik Washington and his ability to stay poised and have an understanding of what his job is. And I think it's just a tremendous job by his wide receiver core, constantly running their routes, being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there, so that Malik can get rid of the ball.
Uh, True indeed. And again, is this the game that you think the running game finally explodes? I mean, the pass game has been so dynamic all season, and in terms of fan stuff, we all are about the big chunk plays. But at some point in this league, to your point, you got to grind a game out. Is this the game? The first time this year, they're going to have to grind it out.
Um, yeah, This is going to be a grinded out type game. And when I say grinded out type game, I'm not speaking about the run game. I'm just talking about just the style of game this is going to be. As I stated before, this is a game that you have to make this the type of game that is first down, second down, third down, first down, second down, third down, first down. Um, Washington does not give up a lot of big plays. They just don't. They're really good at what they do. They don't do a lot of it. They don't do a whole lot of different things, but they're just really good and sound at what they do. But I think that this is an opportunity this week to get the run game going. If I go back and I watch the Ohio State game, there were some run lanes there. There were opportunities for Ohio State to run the ball. So it really just depends on how they play us. What are they going to do? What do they want us to do is what it comes down to. Are they going to say, hey, we can't let Malik beat us? This is a cover two team, Washington. They like to play cover two. They don't give up a bunch of big plays. And what do you do against teams who play cover two? You run the ball. You run the ball until you get them to drop that safety down in there. That's where you're able to throw the ball. So it really just comes down to how the game plays out. But like I said, we have to take care of the ball. We have to make sure that we contain their quarterback. We have to make sure that we eliminate the big plays. And there's something that has been an Achilles heel of ours this year. If I have to point to one thing, is we cannot beat ourselves with penalties. We have to cut out the penalties.
Yeah, especially there was some growing pains in those first three home games in terms of offensive line and jumping off sides and things like that. So I didn't, you brush it off in the booth
Yeah,
because the team wins. But from your perspective, that was just to me. I guess was it about gelling in that moment, and are they better off now? You're in the game two of the next three games of the season.
when it comes to penalties, for me, it's never about gelling. When you step in between those lines and you're playing against another opponent, either you're locked in or you're not. It's just that simple. And I'm gonna take something from Herm Edwards. There's no excuses. There's no explanations. When you get holding penalties, that's a lack of technique. That's hesitation, which could be a sign of a lack of heart. Which I don't think that it's a lack of heart on this team. Maybe there's a little fear. Maybe there's some hesitation. But at the end of the day, there's no excuses. There are no explanations when it comes to the amount of penalties that we get. That's on us as players. When I get a penalty, if I false start, that's on me. If I hold, that's on me. If I don't line up where I'm supposed to be, that's on me. If I'm not disciplined enough on the defensive side of the ball to watch and wait for the ball to be snapped, that's on me. So it's up to the players to make sure that they're locked in and don't allow a 3rd and 7 to become a first down because you got a pass interference or a defensive holding or you got a personal foul. Don't let a 3rd and 7 turn up to be a 3rd and 2 because you hopped off sides. And so I'm hoping and I think that these guys will come in and be ready and locked in.
Oh, one thing about it, I just don't get the sense that their egos in that locker room. And I go back to preseason camp with the new faces, all the talent, and all that kind of stuff. Each one of those rooms could have had a sort of no diss, but diva aspect to it because you got so
Mm-hmm.
many talented players that can do it like that.
Mm-hmm.
In all those rooms, though, and I don't know if it happened by osmosis or did Mike Loxley do it, there was camaraderie as well as competition.
Yeah.
And that don't happen all the time.
Mm.
How did that? You on the inside? How'd you watch that thing sort of work itself out?
I think that it starts with Locks just doing what Locks does, and that's just great recruiting. That's what it comes down to. A lot of teams are good because they have the money to get the best players. We don't necessarily have the best players. I mean, that's not putting down any of our players, but let's just look at the reality of a Georgia's roster versus our roster. You can look at the size of a Georgia and Ohio State. You think about Alabama over the years. I mean, there are teams that you can talk about that I don't think that they're necessarily good because they have good coaching. And I'm not saying they have bad coaching. I think they're good because they have the ability to get the absolute best players. What Coach Locks has done is that he has done a great job of going out and recruiting, getting his types of guys. And I'm gonna keep coming back to it.
It's
His
like,
type of guys. There was times I stood on the sideline, especially last year. You see guys that I watched a guy who, when I watched him play, I'm just like, this dude is soft. He wants no part of the game of
Hmm.
football. But then when I watch him on the sideline and he's not playing, he's got chains on. The whole game, he's looking up in the stands. You're not going to win that way. When I stand on the sideline now, I see guys congratulating each other. I see guys talking to each other. I see guys locked in on coaching. This is just a different breed of team that he has right now. And I really think that it starts with Coach Locks.
Hmm.
Excuse me. It starts with Coach Locks. Um, Pep Hamilton has a major part to do with it. I think that you look at Coach Azar, and I mean, we were winning the last home game, and I think that we gave up a big play or a
Hmm.
touchdown. He was losing it. He was going off on the secondary. And so when you have coaches like that, and when you look at your leaders, when you look at your offensive leader in Malik Washington, and you look at your defensive leader in Daniel Wingate, two guys that work hard, two guys that are humble, and two guys that just go out there and play football, everybody else has no choice but to fall in line.
I want to ask you about a big picture thing because I thought one of the most savvy moves that the overall department did was to bring in Jim Smith.
Hmm.
When you start talking about a guy that understands the conference and understands marketing of sports, to me, you couldn't have had a better hire. And then you got a consultant like former Ohio State athletic director Gene Smith. You've been a player, you on the sidelines, you know how important the infrastructure is. How much better do you think it is right now than it was, say, 12 months ago?
Um, I think the evidence is there that it's better. Um, I still, to be honest with you, I think it's still too early to say. It's too early to say. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a guy that's on the inside like that, and I understand the details of how significant, the new people that we brought in are. If it's one thing that I know is that whether it's Brenda Freeze, she's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Whether it's our field hockey team, whether it's our soccer team, you know, Terps athletics, not just the big athletics, we have championships. You know, what this thing is going to come down to for the football program is who's going to donate the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it's going to come down to. And I think that that's when we'll see what type of job that the AD is doing, all of these new faces. I think that that's when we'll be able to see what type of job they're doing. We have a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
All right. They just built a new performance center for basketball. I had an opportunity to walk through that thing last week, and oh my gosh.
Right.
Oh my gosh. It is gorgeous. When you think about our football facility, it is gorgeous. I think that we have coaches in place. Now it's about being able to get the money to be able to compete with these other schools who are bringing in these big time athletes, and it's about being able to have enough money to keep your guys who are here. That's the other thing that people don't understand about Coach Locks. Year after year since NIL it has started, he's not only losing starters, he's losing starters and backups
Mm-hmm.
in the same offseason. So when you look at the job that he's been able to do up until this point this year, I think that he's done a phenomenal job. And we just have to keep the ball rolling. I will tell you this. I will tell you this with the new AD. There is a different energy. There is a different energy. I don't fully understand the energy, and like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and try to pretend that I understand that side of what goes on in athletics. But if it's one thing that I do have some type of understanding of, and that's energy. He has brought a different type of energy here. There's to me there I feel like there's a closeness within that energy. And so, what that energy and what that closeness turns into remains to be seen. But if there's one thing that I do know is that we have an undefeated football team, a team that everybody should be excited about. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to get on that sideline and see that crowd. I cannot wait to get up there before the game starts and walk around and do some tailgating before I go up in the booth with
Well, you
Johnny
always
C.
tailgate.
Oh
Now,
yeah, I'm going to
anybody
tailgate.
who goes to campus knows that if they want a free meal, that's not in the press box to roll with you. So
Oh
we
yeah.
understand that, bro. We understand. And deep down inside, the bigger moment is going to be when you walk through the cookouts,
Mm,
or is it going to be when you hit the field tomorrow? Because we got about 2 minutes, and
mhm.
I can't think of a bigger home game in quite some time
Yeah,
than this one
yeah.
because of where the team is. Because correct me if I'm wrong, they win this game, they top 25.
I think you have to. I think you have to be top 25 after this. But the most important thing is that we go out here and we win this game. And we give our fans a reason to make sure that they're staying for the entire game.